Greetings, ladies and gentlefish. In this video I thought I would bring you a few games from a relatively new toy. Well, this was patch 9.7, new as of patch 9.7. This is, and also a kind of controversial toy, this is of course the Cromwell Berlin. Now some of you may be wondering, well, why was this controversial? Well, it was a premium tank that was introduced to the game. It was available for sale for a very limited period of time. Along with a selection of other machines like the Rudy, the IS-2, and some servers had the ISU-122 as well. And a lot of people thought it was overpowered. It also came with a special crew, a bit like the female crews that you get from the mission rewards. And the reason that people thought this was overpowered was partly that people paid more attention to the stats than they did to reality, really. But also because it's not what people are used to. So what do you get with the Cromwell Berlin? Well, the Cromwell Berlin is essentially a premium Cromwell. That's basically it. Now, a lot of people were used to premium tanks that are weaker than same tier regular tanks. And yes, that's right, I just did 0 damage to an AMX ELC BIS. But that's not really the case with the Cromwell B, and a lot of people said, oh my god, the Cromwell Berlin is overpowered. Have you looked at the stats on this? It traverses faster than the regular Cromwell. And the regular Cromwell is not slow, and the thing is, that's because people were looking at Tank Inspector, and that was feeding them the stock values for the traverse speed. If you actually run tests on this machine, you find that the fully upgraded regular Cromwell actually turns faster than this machine, and that's something that I actually felt when I was playing it. But the Cromwell Berlin accelerates better, and they both get the same engine, they both get the same gun. There might be some other differences, but that's kind of the major one. So really, it's not that the Cromwell Berlin is overpowered per se. It's more that it is as powerful as a regular same tier medium tank, and the regular same tier medium tank that it is approximately comparable to is a very powerful tank to start with, i.e. the Cromwell, the British tier 6 medium tank. So yeah, now I do actually have problems with this machine. Some people have problems with the fact that it has a giant American star painted on the back of it, even though it's a British tank. Well, firstly, actually, what is this? This was supposed to be a reskin of a Cromwell, essentially, that was representing the Desert Rats. That was Montgomery's Desert Army. The Desert Rats Cromwell that took part in the Berlin Victory Parade at the end of the war, end of the Second World War. And visually, that is what this machine is. And some people actually get irritated by the large American star on the back of the tank. That doesn't bother me, simply because it is actually a historical feature. That large American star on it, and no jokes please, was to stop American pilots from mistaking this thing for a German tank and blowing it up. Now, before all the jokes come in about American friendly fire and all this gumph, which you sometimes see, that's not an entirely unreasonable perspective. The American Air Force was far and away the most prominent air force in the skies over continental Europe, especially during the daytime. And so if anybody needed to be able to recognize a machine as allied, it was the Americans. It's just a simple issue of numbers. So yeah, no, what annoys me about this tank is that the whole purpose of this machine is that it is a historical machine, that it is supposed to be the Desert Rats Cromwell. And so, to my mind, it should have a historical setup. I'm sorry, I don't usually go on about the historical bandwagon, but in this particular case, we're losing 4-8 by the way, in this particular case, I think the historical bandwagon is important. And there are two issues on which I take, well, issue with the Cromwell Berlin in that regard. Firstly, it has the same 650 horsepower engine the regular Cromwell does, and that engine was never found on the Cromwell. The Cromwell mounted a 600 horsepower engine. There were some ideas, I believe, to mount a 650 horsepower engine on the tank, but I don't think they were ever actually implemented. Certainly the Berlin Cromwell, the real Berlin Cromwell, had a 600 horsepower engine. Secondly, the gun. The gun should be quick firing, 75mm gun. That's the gun that you get on the Excelsior. It's a gun that you can use on the Churchill. It's a lower down gun that you can use on the regular Cromwell. About 110 average damage, something like 90 penetration. As it's implemented in the game. Already exists in the game. This tank should get that gun. And when you look at the gun, you look at the name and it says Ordnance Quick Firing 75mm. Okay, cool, it's the right gun. Excellent, except it's not. Because if you look at the stats for the gun, it has the same accuracy, the same average penetration, and the same average damage as the 75mm Vickers high velocity gun that is the top gun on the regular Cromwell. By the way, the scoreline's 12-10. So basically, they've just skinned it as the historical gun, but they've given it the stats of the fully upgraded gun that was never mounted on this tank, and I take issue with that. This should be historical, but never mind. All that aside, this is a very fun machine to play because it's a Cromwell, and it's the reason that I've actually sold my regular Cromwell. By the way, I Jagdpanzer 4s on 7 kills. It's the reason I sold my regular Cromwell, because with this there is no point in me having the regular Crommy. I could just use an existing British medium crew, put them in this, and have the same gaming experience. And train up another crew rather than having a specific crew for this machine. Can I actually pick up a kill in this game? Come on! No. Come on! No. Just the ARL-44 remaining. So, anyway, I waffled on about this tank for a bit. What about the actual game? Well, hopefully you were seeing it in the background. It's a Tier 7 game here on Redshire. And it was looking a bit dicey at one point, but we've managed to pull this out of the bag. And it actually looks like we're going to win unless this ARL can pull a blinder and kill the rest of us. But the rest of the team, apart from me, are now capping. I would rather go out, seek and destroy. Oh no, ARL has seen me. I can take a hit from him if I have to. I do. But I pick up a kill for the game. Hurrah! Fear me. Anyway, let's go and have a quick look at the results, and then I've got 2 other games to show you of various different sorts. So there we go, that game was worth 2nd class mastery, fire for effect, bruiser, and a Confederate medal. 2,446 damage, 1,109 base experience. Now, 1,109 base experience is not too bad. In fact, it's actually worth an ace tanker in some tier 6 machines. But for this it wasn't, it was only 2nd class, and that gives you an idea of how well people were doing in this machine. We only got the 1 kill, of course. The Jagdpanzer on our team picked up 7 kills, 1,800 damage, a nice showing from him. Commiserations to the enemy Su-152 at 3k damage, but unfortunately on the losing team. So, yes, only a 2nd class mastery for that kind of experience score, which kind of sets the bar for how well people were playing this a few days after it had become available. 36 shots fired, 25 hits, 19 penetrations, for 2,446 damage, and we made a good amount of money. We had a premium account at the time. That was a 57,000 credit profit, and it was it wasn't a times 5 XP, event. It was just there was a special mission on for playing the Berlin Cromwell, and you got a shed ton of XP, and I believe at the time I was playing my comic crew in this tank, or possibly the Centurion crew. I was trying to get 6th Sense, basically, on one of those crews. So, let's go and jump into another game. Here's the second game I wanted to show you, and you can see that while we weren't top tier in the previous match, the matchmaking here is decidedly less friendly. This is a tier 8 game, and it's quite a tier 8 game. There's about 6 tier 8s on each team. In fact, there's exactly 6 tier 8s on each team, so we are at the bottom of the feeding pool, but the Cromwell Berlin kind of doesn't care, if we're going to be honest. Much like the regular Cromwell, it's perhaps the best, it's at least one of the best tier 6 tanks to have if you're going to be bottom tier. So, we're here on Fisherman's Bay. Fisherman's Bay? Fisherman's Village? Fisherman's Bay. I was right the first time. And initially, we're going to do some spotting. Woo! Replay bug. Gotta love them, they're replay bugs. So, Z is a bush. I'm going to sit in the bush. I'm going to get experience by spotting all of the things. There's a VK3002M. And let's see if we can get my binos to activate. And there we go, binos up. VK is taking damage. Sweet. You know, I'm a low tier tank, fairly fast, so initially we're kind of going to play the scout role. And really the Cromwell, whether it's the regular Cromwell or the Berlin version, a lot of the time it kind of plays more like a big light tank with a good gun and good matchmaking than it does a medium tank. It's fast, the armour is terrible, and you really end up spending more of your time kind of, you know, doing things like circling people to death. With the terrible bloom values on this gun, you can't really play peekaboo, or not effectively. I mean, a Sherman, for example, if you're playing peekaboo, a Sherman will eat you alive. Which we'll see in a video that I have to show you at some point, actually. Not in this video, in another one. Eventually, I've got that to show you. Seeing if we can get any fire on this IS-6. Come on, guys. Ooh, a shot went in, but to no avail by the look of it. And our artillery says he's attacking him. Sweet. Just going to keep this guy lit up. I'm perfectly happy here in my bush. No laughing, please. It's a very serious matter. And this is just passive scouting. Like I say, it doesn't have to be a light tank in order... Well, I've said before in other videos, I hope, you don't have to be a light tank in order to play the role of a scout. And by the same token, not all light tanks are good scouts. You kind of have to play to your particular machine's strengths and weaknesses and mix it up a little bit. Now, the IS-6 is probably going to push forward towards our T-28 prototype, and he may well get our prototype spotted, which is a bit of a problem because the enemy team... I was about to say the enemy team almost invariably have tank destroyers back at B1, B2, but the enemy team only actually has a single tank destroyer, and it's a Hellcat. The T-28 prototype doesn't really have too much to fear from a Hellcat at long range, but... I'm training up, again, it's either the Comet or the Centurion crew in this game, I cannot remember, so I don't have Sixth Sense. So, rather than waiting for my Sixth Sense to not go off, I'm gonna, you know, get out of dodge before I get spotted. It didn't look like I was gonna get anything more out of that position, so just gonna go somewhere else. And do something else. See if we can put flanking fire into people. And here you can see this thing is fast, it's able to relocate very quickly, which is an absolutely lovely feature about this machine. Historically, the crews were very, very happy with the Cromwell. They loved the mobility and whatnot. They just wished it could have a bit more armour protection. And the Comet did, so the Comet was rather a popular machine. Scoreline is 4-4. There's an ELC on the roof. Well, it's not actually on the roof. It's just kind of in between some houses. I can't really get an effective shot on him without exposing myself a little bit too much. So I'm going to come down here and try and help out these guys. No, the T-44 is dead. Can I put some damage on the Tiger? Nope, he's dead too. ELC is dead. Ugh, fine. Well, coming over here was a massively fantastic use of my time, wasn't it? Alright, there's a KV-13 in the middle. There's a bunch of enemy tanks on the 1 and 2 lines. They appear to have pushed through, so we're probably going to need to do something about them. The best thing I can do about those guys... Ooh, AMX-12T. The best thing I can do about these guys is probably spot them for the bigger guns on my team, if we're going to be honest. But if they're at range, I'll take a punt. I mean, that guy's 503 meters away. I'm not the one doing the spotting, and if I open fire, I shouldn't get spotted myself. We do, however, lose our artillery to the KV-13 on the ridge line up here. And now our IS-3 is taking pain. This is not looking fantastic. Now, we do have a couple of light tanks heading over toward the likely location of their artillery, and they do actually find the Hellcat back there at A2, so I imagine that Hellcat is probably not long for this world. And indeed, he goes down. And there's the T69. The accuracy on this gun is not great, but certainly not good enough to be aiming for kind of tracking shots from this range or something like that. 2 more shots into this guy should finish him off. 1 more. Is the T69's magic armor going to save him? Yes, it is. Someone else picks up the kill. That's fine. Now, they are capping our base, and our light tank, T-37, decides that rather than defending our base, what we should really be doing is paying attention to what he was doing, because that's clearly the most important thing on this map. And clearly his life is the one that we should be valuing above all others, and because we weren't doing that, he's going to continually spam the map like an idiot. I think you will get my thoughts on that matter. Now, we've managed to kill some of their tanks. I have no idea which ones we've got left, I'm afraid, because this guy is a spamming moron. But it does leave them with an IS-6, a KV-13, T-71, and an M12 artillery piece. Finally, this T-37 shuts up. Now, IS-6. I know there's a KV-13 to my right, and indeed there he is. And of course oh, here we go again. My lack of sixth sense means that I'm not going to know immediately if I'm spotted or not. I'm only going to just assume that I am spotted or find out with my face. Again, this T-37 really needs to stop it. He is currently hindering his team's chances of victory. And that's what I don't understand about spamming the map. In practice, all you do is hurt your own team's chances of winning. So, at this stage, I am loading APCR. I carry 5 rounds of APCR on this tank. Don't usually need them. But this is an IS-6 from 500 meters. If this were closer, then my AP rounds would probably be sufficient, but at 500 meters, it's going to be dodgy. I've only got 1 round of APCR left, so I want to try and make sure that it's a good shot that's hopefully going to do damage, and of course it bounces. Oh well, never mind, c'est la vie. Managed to track him though, with an AP round, and I'm just going to keep pouring some fire into his general vicinity. And our IS-3 actually manages to nail their IS-6, as I had him tracked, so that should be some damage for me. T-71 now is coming over to try and hurt our WZ, so hopefully I'm going to give this guy a bit of a hand, protect him a little, and the amount of ammunition this T-71 is going to pour into that WZ is probably going to leave him in a position where he can't finish me off with his magazine, so I can just chase him down. 1 more shot. And put him out of his misery. I take a hit from the KV-13 in the process, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. Oh, but this KV-13 is chasing me down, and our T-37 is continually spamming the map. This guy really is moronic. It's entirely possible that the KV-13 now is going to kill me. I don't know, but it was worth it to kill that T-71 while he was reloading. It was most definitely worthwhile. Our IS-3 and Centurion are moving in to deal with this KV-13 now, and so I'm feeling a little bit more confident. Don't worry, our T-37 is going to continue doing this for some time. And there the KV-13 is, frustratingly of course. It depends how much attention he's going to pay me and how much attention he's going to pay other people, to be fair. There we go, KV-13 is now on 426 health. Let's see if I can do some flanking. I am, of course, in a fast medium tank, so hopefully flanking is going to be an option. 200 health left on the KV. He cannot be long for this world. But he comes around this corner to deal with me. He puts a shot into me, rams me, I put him on 118, and the KV-13 kills me before our Centurion manages to finish the KV off. That engagement did not go as I had planned. Well, what are you going to do? So, that just leaves the enemy artillery remaining. I might have died, but we've had a good roll in this game. We'll see how good later on. And finally, the T-37 has decided he doesn't need to spam the minimap anymore. Frabjous day, Kaloo, Calais. A chortle in my joy. Centurion Mark 1, KV-2, IS-3 versus an M12 artillery piece. This should be a foregone conclusion. So let's just speed things along a little bit. until these guys find the little arty piece, and indeed he dies pretty quickly. So that was the game. And of course, when you bear in mind what we did, remember, we're bottom tier. So every time we're shooting a tank a higher tier than us, we're going to get an XP multiplier, which is nice. So let's go and take a look at those results. So that game was actually enough for a first class mastery, fire for effect, and a bruiser token. 2017 damage, finished top of my team on experience. 1,209 base experience, only the single kill, but let's not worry too much about that. 1,209 base experience, where did that come from? Well, firstly, we were shooting higher tier tanks. If you look at it, we put a good amount of damage into the IS-6, tier 8, T-69, tier 8, KV-13, tier 7, T-71, tier 7, MT-25, the only damage we put into a same tier tank. We also picked up 1,477 assistance damage. That tracking shot on the lucky tracking shot on the IS-6 helped out a lot in that regard. And despite the fact that we fired a few rounds of APCR, in fact I must have already bought some because those ammunition costs look rather low. But anyway, we made a 59,000 credit profit and 10 gold. There was an event running at the time that got me a little bit of gold for that. Even with a standard account, that would have been a 37,500 credit profit. So, rather a nice game in the end. Let's go and have a look at the last game I've got to show you. Here's the third and final game of this replay, of this video, sorry. And if I'm honest, this game felt a little cheap to me, but hopefully you'll see why come the end. But I'm going to include it anyway. So this is technically a tier 7 game, although there's only one tier 7 on each team, so the matchmaking is definitely not too bad. And if you actually look at the team list, there's 1 tier 7 and 3 tier 6s on each team. Most of both teams are tier 5. With even a fail platoon bringing a DW2 onto our team. Oh hurrah! We're on mines, it's an encounter game, and I am going to rush the hill. We have a lot of medium tanks, we're in the north spawn, rush the ever-loving bejesus out of the hill, and that gives us a fantastic advantage throughout the rest of the game. And the Cromwell is definitely fast enough to rush the hill, so let's go. Who's coming with me? Type T-34, Panzer 38 NA. He's one half of the silly fail platoon. And we're up. Oh! Stug 3 misses. I bounce on him, but I will happily take that. I'm up here. They're not. And now their lights and whatnot are going to meet the rest of our machines. There's a T-37 who's going to be having a bad day. He turns around to fight me. Misses his shot. I put one more into him and managed to pick up the kill. So, who else is trying to come up here then? Well, there's a Lux who's probably wishing he hadn't bothered. And I'm just going to ignore those guys now. And go and do something about the capture circle, because the enemy team have quite a lot of machines over in this general direction. I should point out, of course, actually, that this was about the third game I played in this tank, something like that. This game came before either of the other two that I've shown you. So, KV-85 down here. I don't think I'll be exposing myself too much. Ooh, there's that Lux. If I try and take a shot at him, then again the Lux is firing up in my general direction, so maybe I would be. So, just playing it a little more patiently. Really need that Lux to die. No one else is paying me any attention at all. Come on, come on. Screw it. Yeah, you need to die. Oh, and I even mess it up. That was disappointing. Plump around into the rear of that KV-85 and set him on fire, and it looks like that KV-85 did not bring a fire extinguisher to the party, which is a terrible mistake on his part. Oh, maybe he did. The fire does now go out, but now he's 2 shots, 1 shot away from oblivion, and he dies. KV-1 is now giving me his attention, and I set the KV-1 on fire. Now, frustratingly for me, I'm currently trying to do the incinerator mission for the T-55A, which is to set 1 tank on fire twice, or to set 2 different tanks on fire during the course of the game. This game would have completed that for me, as I set the KV-85 on fire and then the KV-1 on fire. But I wasn't doing that at this point. was nowhere near that far along in the mission, so I decided to relocate. I've put my driver back in, go somewhere else, or at least move back enough for them to have forgotten that I exist. Ooh, SU-100. Gun depression on this tank is not terrible, but it's certainly not impressive. And yep, ooh, it looks like that shot tracked him. Now I shouldn't be spotted here because, and indeed it looks like I'm not, as the bushes are not transparent. Basically, I'm making sure that I'm far enough away from these bushes that they are not transparent. This guy is determined that I should be nudged out of the way because, I don't know, he's more important. He even misses his shot. These games were kind of full of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, Muppets. There's only 3 of them left now on the enemy team, by the way. We've comprehensively kicked them in the spleen. This was not really a challenging game. That SU-100, the M4 Sherman, and the SU-122A. Picked up 2 kills so far. See if we can pick up a couple more. And the KV-1S in our team is going, no cap. Well, let's go and kill them then. SU-100's looking the wrong way. SU-100 is going to regret that. M4 Sherman is at C5, so I'm just going to go after the artillery. And there he is. 1 shot in, and goodbye, little RT. 2 shots in for kill number 4. And there goes the Sherman, and that was the game. Short but sweet. So, why did I think that was a pretty cheap game? Yeah, you'll see. That game was my ace tanker. That was played on the day the Cromwell Berlin came out, the day I got it, and few people had it at the time. And so the requirements for your ace tankers, your first class masteries and all that were really rather low. And so that was actually my ace tanker game. Yeah, that one. Ace tanker, fire for effect, fighter, sharpshooter, master gunner, bruiser, high caliber. It felt a bit cheap for that reason. It was really quite an easy, cheap ace, especially when you take into account the fact that I got 2 fires in that game. 2,246 damage, 4 kills, 1,117. Base experience for that ace. Quote-unquote ace. It's not really a proper ace, but I thought I'd show you it anyway. Easily the most damage of anyone on either team. Ditto for experience, but it still felt cheap. 20 shots fired, 19 hits, 16 pens for that damage count. We actually took 9 hits, but that's because the looks shot us. And we made a 60,000 credit profit. Close as damn it. That would have been a 40,000 credit without a premium account. So it was a fairly fun game. It was short, it was brutal, but as I say, it felt a little bit cheap. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that trio of games in the Cromwell Berlin. Hopefully at some point I will be able to reproduce my performance in that 3rd game and actually get the T-55 incinerator mission done. My god, it's a pain in the backside. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.